I call the Honourable Member Dr. Paul Hutchison.
Mr. Chair, I move the question be now put.
Oh. Mr. Chair.
I haven't heard from the Greens. I'm going to hear Catherine Delahunt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. I'd just like to hold up the picture of what it all means. This is it. As Chris Farfoy, my colleague, said, this is what it all means. If you want to understand Clause 3, this is it. It's almost matching the Minister's suit. It's a great little diagram of what we're really trying to achieve here and what it all means. I think it's really important to talk about the Principal Act in relation to the amendment. That's what this clause is about. And there is a fundamental issue here around what other acts have or haven't been considered in amending the Principal Act, and others have referred to the Human Rights Act. I'd also refer us back to the Bill of Rights, which has been breached in this case. Te Tiriti o Waitangi, given that whānau ora is about the principle of families being able to work together, and this attacks that when it limits who can actually receive this funding. The Employment Relations Act maybe should have been amended to include a recognition of what is about to be done to people by giving them less than the minimum wage. And these are fundamental principles, but the real issue I just wanted to touch on was the issue of the problem that's built into the Principal Act and which we are entrenching in this amendment, in this Clause 3 and in this amendment bill. And that is the idea that disability is a health issue. And that's a fundamental problem that both of these pieces of legislation are entrenching. My partner has a lifelong disability. He is not sick. He doesn't have a health issue. Many, many people affected by the carers' issues are not sick. Making them sick, calling them and categorising them as in the health budget means that they are treated as if they are sick and they might get better, instead of treating them as citizens with permanent conditions which are manageable providing they have their human rights. It's not the same as being sick. It is very discriminatory what is happening in the clause and what is happening in the principle. And for many people, such as my partner, the lifelong categorisation of being invalid has been problematic. So what we need to do is recognise an independent bill should have been created to recognise the rights of family members to choose carers, because this is an issue of rights. But in amending the Principal Act, what we have done is entrench the idea it's about sick people being looked after. Now, this is in many ways a disempowering model, both for the carer and for the person who's chosen the family member to care for them, because they are not sick. They are actually people who want a full participation in every aspect of society and have perhaps got a lifelong condition that means they have particular challenges, but they are not ill. They're not necessarily ill and going to recover. So you get these limitations of caring packages, you get these misunderstandings about the natures of rights entrenched in this clause and entrenched in this relationship with the Principal Act. And what it does is undermine both the self-determination of the person living in a disabling society and the carer who is trying to support that person in their self-determination. Now, I know that's very complex for people who have avoided this issue, who just lump it all together into health and disability. Tidy little package, people with something wrong with them, what can we do to fix them? Disempowering model, not 21st century model, not appropriate. Now, if I'd spoken on the commencement, I would have talked about another name for the bill, which would have been too little, too late, too bad, shut up. Because that's actually the real name of this bill. Shall I say that again? Too little, too late, too bad, shut up. And that's what this clause does when it doesn't recognise its impact on the Human Rights Act. It fixes itself in a bill, in a law that has not been set up with the right order in terms of health and disability, which is what I'm talking about. The Principal Act is amended, and what it does is entrench a definition of people's rights as carers and as people needing care that is problematic. And so I'd like to think about the dark room where all of these decisions got made. A dark room that's been dark since 2000 and something, where they've been talking about amending the Health and Disability Act, and they've come up with this clause. Well, how did they do that, Mr. Chair? They didn't do that by consulting with the people most affected, because otherwise we wouldn't be here today with this mess in Clause 3. We would actually be in a clear situation where we had a decent piece of legislation before us that was a facilitator of the rights-based approach that is necessary to empower people.
I call the Honourable Member Jamie Lee